Johnny Talk Sports in with the Week 9 college football predictions, and we are in store for a big week in college football. This is a big week for the Big Ten Conference as we have Michigan and Michigan State going at it in the game of the week. Penn State is looking to bounce back after 2 consecutive losses as they go on the road to take on Ohio State. And we also have a potential trap game for Iowa as they go on the road to take on Wisconsin. And with another week of college football in the books, that means it's time for another top 10 ranking. So here is what my new top 10 looks like. No surprises at the very top. I still have Georgia as the number 1 team in college football right now. Ohio State at 2, Michigan at 3, Cincinnati at 4, Michigan State at 5, Alabama at 6, Oklahoma at 7, Oregon at 8, and rounding out my top 10, I have Ole Miss at 9, and I have Wake Forest at 10. Now, I want to quickly talk about this. I have been saying for a couple of weeks now that Oregon's head-to-head win against Ohio State in Week 2, it should be honored, and I still think that. However, both these teams have looked different since that Week 2 showdown. Ohio State is looking like one of the best teams in college football, while Oregon is continuing to just survive and advance. And they did that once again against UCLA this past Saturday, despite having a pretty decent lead late in that game, and they allowed UCLA to get right back into that game. And UCLA even had a chance to win the game at the very end. And I wasn't sure who to put at number 7, whether or not Oklahoma or Oregon, because in my honest opinion, these two teams, they are pretty much the same. They're just in different conferences. They're both, in a way, surviving and advancing. And we've seen that multiple times out of both these teams. But I ultimately gave Oklahoma the small edge there because they still are undefeated despite not looking dominant or looking good whatsoever. I just think that Caleb Williams has been the answer at quarterback for Oklahoma so far. But the margin between Oklahoma and Oregon for the 7th spot, it's pretty close. And Ole Miss, their one loss is to Alabama. And Wake Forest running out my top 10. I had a hard time deciding who to put at that 10th spot, whether it was Wake Forest or Iowa or Kentucky. I thought about Notre Dame, but there's been a few times this season where Notre Dame just hasn't looked like a top 10 team. And Wake Forest, I think, despite the ACC conference looking like hot garbage this season, they still have a pretty solid resume. They've got some solid wins over Virginia and Louisville, which those two teams, believe it or not, I feel like there's some solid programs. But Wake Forest, the toughest part of their schedule is coming up, so we're going to see how good this Wake Forest team can really be in the later portion of the college football season. So without further ado, let's get to the Week 9 college football predictions. First game on tap, Iowa and Wisconsin. And as I said in the beginning, this has the potential of being a trap game for Iowa. Even though Wisconsin is right now, I think it's a 3-point favorite or 2.5-point favorite, I still think this could really be a pick'em if you think about it. Because they always say the home team usually gets about 3 points. So it's kind of a pick'em to me. Both these teams have struggled offensively all season long. Iowa 120th in total offense. They're only averaging about 28 points per game. Wisconsin 90th in total offense, and they're only averaging about 21 points per game. However, both these defenses are pretty strong. Iowa is 12th in total defense, while Wisconsin is 2nd in total defense. And in scoring defense, Iowa is 3rd in scoring defense, and Wisconsin is 17th in scoring defense. I want to see which quarterback is going to make the plays, because I think that will be the difference maker. because we know that both these teams are going to run the football. Because Iowa is 16th in time of possession and Wisconsin is 7th in time of possession. So we're going to have to see which receivers are going to step up in this game and which passing offense is going to step up, because both these defenses, they are good at defending the pass. Iowa is 4th in pass defense efficiency and Wisconsin 11th in team pass defense efficiency. So I think this game is going to go in either direction. In the end, though, I think Wisconsin is going to pull off the quote-unquote upset, despite being a favorite right now. But as I said, with them always saying that the home team usually gets about 3 points, this is still kind of a pick-em to me. So I'm picking Wisconsin to pull off the, upset. Because this is going to be Wisconsin's Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin, they have not been as bad as what their record has shown. They have competed in all 3 of the games they've lost. And they were in all 3 of them. Especially the Michigan one, until Graham Mertz had to leave the game. Wisconsin was well in that game. And Wisconsin, they are going to treat this game as their Big Ten championship game. Because Wisconsin, they still have a season that can still be salvageable. They can still end the season with a solid 8-4 record. And it wouldn't be too bad considering the competition they faced. So I'm picking the Badgers to win this one. Next, we have a very intriguing group of 5 matchup, SMU and Houston. And I'm looking forward to seeing this one. SMU undefeated coming into this game. Houston with only 1 loss. Tanner Mordecai for SMU, 29 touchdown passes this season, which is tied for the most in the FBS with Bailey Zappi out of Western Kentucky. They're also 6th in scoring offense, averaging about 42.5 points per game. And the SMU offensive line has been phenomenal this season. They've only allowed 2 sacks this season, which is the best in the FBS. But Houston, they still have a really strong defense. In fact, they are 3rd in the FBS in first down defense. They are 4th in total defense, and they have the 2nd most sacks this season. They're 12th in the pass defense, and they are the best team on third down defense. So that is going to be the key for Houston if they want to pull off this, quote-unquote upset, because Houston is a 1-point favorite right now. So the way I see this game, can Houston's defense force Tanner Mordecai and the Mustangs offense into 3rd and long situations? Can they dominate on 1st and 2nd down, which Houston has proven that they can do that? I think that Houston is going to make SMU earn this victory, but I think in the end, I think SMU, they do win this game close. However, this is a trap game for SMU. If they want to keep up their hopes for a New Year's 6 bid, as this SMU team still has to play Cincinnati later on in the year, and Houston could potentially be playing Cincinnati later on in the season. However, can Houston keep SMU's offense off the field? I think they'll be able to do that, but will they be able to keep them off the field enough? As Houston is 15th in the FBS in time of possession. So if they can dominate on defense on 1st and 2nd down, because we know they're the best team defensively on 3rd down, at least from a statistical standpoint. They're the best team in 3rd down defense. I think they have a nice chance of pulling off this victory, but I think SMU wins this close. I do think they will be challenged throughout this game, but they win it at the very end. I think SMU gets the victory. Next, we have Texas and Baylor. Texas is coming off of a bye week, and before the bye week, they have had 2 heartbreaking losses in a row, while Baylor, they are flying under the radar, in my opinion. Baylor with only 1 loss on the year to Oklahoma State. if Baylor were to win out, win the Big 12, I think they've got a case to be one of the 4 teams in the college football playoff. But this is going to be a very tough matchup for Baylor, as Texas, they are coming off of the bye, and they have been heartbroken in their last 2 games. Texas with Bijan Robinson averaging 132 rushing yards per game, which is 3rd in the FBS. While Baylor with Abram Smith, 112 rushing yards per game, 10th in the FBS. So we know that this is going to be a very run-heavy game. And Casey Thompson has done really well as the Texas QB this season, as Texas has looked a lot better with Casey Thompson under center compared to Hudson Card. Baylor's offensive line has only given up 6 sacks all season long. So I think this is going to be a game that comes down to which team is going to run the football the best. And I think I'm going to give the small edge to Texas. And I also want to point out that Texas, well, I'm pointing it out for like the 3rd time now, but they've been heartbroken in their last 2 games. They're going to be motivated in this one. They're going to play their hearts out in this game, and they are ultimately going to pull off the upset against Baylor on the road. I like the Longhorns in this game. Moving on to our next game this week. Next, we have a big showdown in the SEC West. Ole Miss and Auburn. Ole Miss is 3rd in total offense, mainly with Matt Corral under center. 15 touchdown passes to only 1 interception, and Matt Corral is also the leading rusher on this Rebels team, as he is looking like one of the front runners, if not the front runner, for the Heisman Trophy. And Auburn is 30th in total offense. And I also got to acknowledge Bo Nix has had his moments in his career, whether if it's positive or negative moments, but he has only thrown 2 interceptions this season. So he's playing some cleaner football, but he's only thrown 8 touchdown passes this season. But Auburn's strength is their running game. Tank Bigsby is averaging 5.2 yards per carry, while Jarquez Hunter is averaging 8.6 yards per carry. And the reason why this is relevant is because Ole Miss's weakness is stopping the run. They're allowing an average of 179 rushing yards per game. So if Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter, if Auburn utilizes them in that running game, milk the clock out, and keep Matt Corral and the Ole Miss offense on the sidelines, I think Auburn's got a really good chance to win. However, every time I pick Auburn to win, it seems like they lose. This game, I think, can go in either direction, because Jordan-Hare is a pretty tough place to play, especially at this point in the year. I am going to go with Ole Miss to win this game, but I think Auburn will be able to stay in this game mainly with the running game. I do think that if Ole Miss's defense can stop the run early on, or at least try to contain it and force Bo Nix to make a play, I think that Ole Miss will be able to win this one. So we'll see if Ole Miss's defense can contain this Auburn running game, which they've had issues stopping the run all season long. But they can contain it, force Bo Nix to make plays, force him to make throws down the field. I think Ole Miss will win this one. That's what I think does happen. But I think Auburn makes this game close. I'm going to say in the neighborhood of possibly Ole Miss wins this 34-28. Next, we have Penn State and Ohio State. Penn State losing last week to Illinois. It did kind of ruin a little bit of the hype to this game. But Penn State is looking to bounce back after 2 consecutive losses, and now they go on the road, take on Ohio State to try to get back on the winning track, which is a very tough thing to ask for with Penn State, especially with how good Ohio State has looked lately. C.J. Stroud, 14 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in his last 3 games. And Ohio State is first in total offense. And the Ohio State running game is averaging 6 yards per carry. So with Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams, they will have to be difference makers in this game if they want to avoid being upset by Penn State. But how healthy is Sean Clifford at this point? That is a big concern if you are Penn State. However, can Penn State's defense keep Penn State in this game? They are 6th in scoring defense, and despite giving up quite a bit of yards, especially rushing yards, they gave up 357 rushing yards last week to Illinois. And they also gave a bunch of rushing yards to Wisconsin and Auburn in those 2 games where Penn State still won, but they really took advantage defensively against Wisconsin. They took advantage of Wisconsin turnovers. They really benefited from that. And against Auburn, well, Bo Nix doesn't play well on the road. Penn State is going to have to win on 3rd down because Ohio State, they convert 58% of their 3rd down conversions, which is 3rd in the FBS. However, Penn State, they are 3rd in defensive pass efficiency, with C.J. Stroud having the hot hand right now in college football. I think that Penn State has the potential of keeping this game close if their defense can keep them in it. But with the way Ohio State's been playing lately, I think this is a complete sign of an Ohio State dominant win. And I think that essentially is going to happen. I think Ohio State, they win this game by at least 20 to 25 points. I think this would be at least a 3-possession win for Ohio State, especially with Sean Clifford not being at 100%. So I'm going to pick Ohio State in this one. And finally, we have our game of the week, Michigan and Michigan State. This is one of the biggest games of the season. College football playoff magnitude. I can't wait for this one. Kenneth Walker for the Spartans, 142.4 yards per game on average, which is first in the FBS, second in the FBS in rushing yards at 997, so just under 1,000. However, despite having Kenneth Walker, the best running back in college football this season, 119th in time of possession are the Spartans, while Michigan, they are 13th in time of possession. The Michigan State defense, however, they lead the Big Ten in sacks with 26. And Michigan, Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins both have 10 rushing touchdowns this season apiece. So can Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins, can they match up with Kenneth Walker? As Michigan, they are 5th in rushing offense this season, running for an average of 253.3 yards per game. But I think this game is going to come down to, well, one, which team runs the football the best. They're going to have a small edge. But there's going to have to be some plays in this game where your receivers are going to have to make some plays. And that's where I favor Michigan State in this game, because they have one of the most underrated receiving cores in all of college football. Jaden Reed, averaging 20.8 yards per catch and 5 touchdowns. And Jalen Naylor, averaging 19 yards per catch and 6 touchdowns. Those two are responsible for 11 of Michigan State's 15 touchdown receptions this season. I think this game is going to be really close. In fact, I think in the beginning, we're going to see the defenses show out. I think we're going to have a low-scoring game for the most part, but in the end, I think by a score of 23-20, I think Michigan State pulls off the upset. And that will do it for my Week 9 college football predictions. Like, share, and subscribe. If there's a game that you want me to predict that I didn't predict here, leave in the comment section. I will respond to you. Until next time, have a great day, everyone, and enjoy college football this weekend. As also, I do plan on making my World Series prediction video later on tonight or early on tomorrow, so be sure to look for that. Talk to you next time.